She doesn't destroy you by fighting you. She destroys you by making you forget who you are. You meet her and it feels like fate. Like all the noise of your life suddenly goes quiet. She looks at you, speaks to you, touches you, and in an instant something ancient stirs. The world feels softer around her, safer. You think this must be it. She seems to see you in ways no one ever has. The way she listens, the way she leans in, the way she makes you feel like the only man in the world. It's intoxicating. It's real, or at least it feels that way. But the shift comes quietly, slowly. Her warmth doesn't vanish, it flickers. One day she's all smiles and softness. The next she's distant, vague, somewhere else entirely. She says nothing, but her absence screams. And you tighten up. You start thinking it must be you. Maybe she's just having a hard week. Maybe you missed a signal. Maybe if you just try a little harder, do a little more, things will go back to how they were. This is where most men lose themselves. They override their instincts. They silence that deep, quiet discomfort in their gut. They don't want to believe what their body already knows, that something's off. So they chase, they adapt, they bend, and with every adjustment, every compromise, they drift further and further from who they truly are. What they don't realize is that this isn't some random emotional roller coaster. It's not just how relationships go. It's a psychological trap, one that Carl Jung tried to warn about long before most men even had words for this kind of pain. At the heart of it is projection. You didn't fall for her. You fell for what she represented to your wounded psyche: safety, wholeness, validation. You saw in her everything you never got to feel as a boy, and in doing so, you handed her the keys to your sense of worth, and she, whether she knows it or not, begins to use that. Her affection becomes inconsistent, her attention transactional. Sometimes she disappears emotionally and you scramble to bring her back. Sometimes she returns just enough to make you think it was all in your head. You're no longer in a relationship. You're in a cycle, a loop, a psychological maze where love is rationed and peace is always one step out of reach. You tell yourself to hold on, that it'll change, that the connection you felt in the beginning means something. But you're not chasing her. You're chasing a ghost. You're trying to resurrect a version of her that only existed in your fantasy, shaped by your unmet needs, your unresolved wounds, and your desperate longing to feel chosen. And that's the real danger. You think it's about her, but it's never been about her. It's about you abandoning yourself. You trading your clarity, your standards, your sense of self just to keep the illusion alive. It's about believing that love has to be earned through struggle, through patience, through proving your worth. When in truth, real love doesn't make you doubt your sanity. It doesn't feed on your insecurity. It doesn't train your nervous system to flinch at every silence. But the loop is seductive. It convinces you that her emotional withdrawal is a test you're supposed to pass. That if you just say the right thing, act the right way, she'll return to who she was in the beginning. But she won't. Because that version of her was never about you. It was about the hook. The spark that was designed to pull you in before the real pattern began. You don't break this loop by fixing her. You break it by waking up. By seeing that the inconsistency you've been calling passion is actually instability. That the anxiety you've been calling chemistry is actually trauma. And that the love you've been chasing outside of yourself is the very thing you've been withholding from within. The truth is brutal, but it will free you. You were never meant to lose yourself to be loved. You were meant to stand so deeply rooted in your own worth that no amount of silence, distance, or confusion can shake you from your center. That's what Jung was trying to teach, not just about women, but about the parts of yourself you have disowned and the chaos you unconsciously invite when you don't reclaim them. No one teaches men this, that the most dangerous traps are the ones that feel like love, that the most painful prisons are built with invisible chains, but once you see it, once you really see it, you can't unsee it. The spell breaks. And what was once a mystery becomes a message. Come back to yourself. That's where your freedom is. This isn't connection. It isn't love. It's a subtle reinforcement of one core lie, that your worth depends on how she sees you. Every kind word becomes a fix. Every cold silence, a withdrawal. And you start chasing, shrinking until you're no longer showing up as yourself. You begin to soften your voice, adjust your tone, mute your opinions, and bend your boundaries. Not because you're weak, but because your nervous system has learned to equate being chosen with survival. This is the fork in the road. Some collapse into resentment, others wake up. Because the brutal truth is, This isn't about changing her. It never was. The only way out is to turn inward, to face the part of you that believed you had to earn peace by abandoning it, that believed you had to sacrifice your truth just to be accepted. The moment you stop chasing the chaos, the whole thing unravels. Not because she changes, but because you do. You stop feeding the loop. You stop negotiating with inconsistency. You stop calling emotional confusion passion. And suddenly what used to feel like love becomes visible for what it really was. Manipulation in disguise. That's the moment it clicks. You remember the man you were before the confusion, before the anxiety, before the constant effort to be enough. You didn't lose him. You buried him to survive. This is the freedom most men never find, not because they aren't capable, but because no one told them the real war was inside. Not against her, against the part of themselves that believed love must cost your dignity. But something changes when you stop responding to the tests. The passive aggression, the affection followed by silence, the sharp mood swings. You still notice them, but they don't move you anymore. They don't drag you back into the old game, not because you've become cold, but because you finally remembered you were never meant to chase validation outside yourself. The old triggers dissolve. What used to make you spiral now makes you still. You stop asking, what did I do wrong, and start realizing, this isn't mine to carry. Your nervous system settles. Your boundaries become firm. Your peace becomes sacred. And that's when the game begins to lose its grip. You see it all clearly. The emotional loops, the performative affection, the sudden pullbacks that once left you guessing. You see how much of it was never about love, but already about control. You see the game for what it is. Small, predictable, mechanical. And when the tactics stop working, things shift. She senses it. Not always consciously, but she feels it. Your detachment, your inner calm, your refusal to chase. And in that energy, the game either escalates or it collapses. The tests become louder. She may reappear, pour affection, then disappear again, trying to reset the pattern. Or the whole thing falls apart, quietly. Because it has nothing left to feed on. That's the truth most never see. The game only existed because you kept it alive. With your doubt, your fear, your longing to be enough for someone who needed you to stay unsure. It was never love. It was survival theater. A loop powered by a nervous system wired for abandonment. But when you stop abandoning yourself, the whole structure falls. That's when you understand what Jung meant. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you'll call it fate. That pain you thought was destiny, it was just repetition. That heartbreak, a pattern, that chaos, a program. Not your fault, but your responsibility. And the moment you see it clearly, the man who once gave his soul for crumbs no longer exists. The man who once silenced his truth to be tolerated finally speaks. Not to fix, not to impress, but because his voice belongs to him again. That's where it always begins. Not with fireworks, but with the one quiet decision. The decision to stop trading yourself for temporary belonging, to stop mistaking intensity for love, to stop handing over your power for the illusion of connection. You never needed to be more lovable. You just needed to stop leaving yourself behind. You didn't bend because you were weak. You bent because of somewhere deep down, you believed that love was a fragile thing, something that had to be protected, even at the cost of your own soul. You thought, if you just gave a little more, softened a little more, stayed a little longer, maybe it would be enough. But what nobody tells you is that the pain you're carrying isn't just about heartbreak. It's a dismantling of your mind, a corrosion of your sense of self. You begin to second-guess what you saw, what you felt. You stop trusting your own instincts. Slowly, your nervous system wires itself to someone else's chaos, to her silence, her storms. And one day, you can't tell where her moods end and your identity begins. The shift doesn't happen loudly. It's subtle, quiet, like fog rolling in. The man who once stood rooted, confident, clear begins to dissolve. Not because she asked you to, but because your unconscious made a deal, sacrifice your truth in exchange for connection. It's a slow erosion. You stop voicing your needs. You downplay your pain. You shrink, hoping it will be enough to hold her love. But the cost? It's not just nights of overthinking. It's not just the anxiety, the doubt, the exhaustion. The real price is internal. It's the moment you no longer trust your own perception. And that fracture between you and yourself is the deepest wound of all. Because when she leaves, and she always does, what's left behind isn't just her absence. It's the gaping void where your self-respect used to live, and that's the heartbreak that lingers. Not that she left, but how easily, how silently you handed yourself away. It doesn't end there. Because unless you see it, really see it, you repeat it. Different face, different voice, same story. The pattern returns, dressed in new clothes. It's not fate, it's not bad luck, it's the shadow pulling strings from beneath the surface. The same unconscious belief that love must come with pain, that being chosen requires sacrifice. It was never love. It was a contract. When you never signed with words, but lived out with your silence, your compromises, your ache to be seen. Most men never name it. They move from woman to woman, heartbreak to heartbreak, unaware that it's not her they're chasing. It's a piece of themselves they abandoned long ago. And when the illusion finally cracks, not through drama or betrayal, but through quiet disillusionment, something sacred happens. Your nervous system stops mistaking chaos for intimacy. Her silence no longer triggers your panic. Her withdrawal no longer sends you spiraling. That moment isn't loud. It's still. And in that stillness, something within you shifts. The boy who learned to earn love by disappearing, he dies. No tears, no funeral, just silence. And in his place, a man rises. Not a bitter man, not one seeking vengeance, but a sovereign man. A man who doesn't chase peace through someone else's emotional weather. A man who no longer asks for permission to feel whole. This doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you become surgical, precise. You stop mistaking mood swings for depth. You stop reading unpredictability as passion. You stop chasing high highs and start demanding honesty, first from yourself, then from anyone who dares to enter your world. You become discerning, not cold, not closed, but centered, clear, awake. The tests still come. The patterns still show up. But their power? Gone. You see through the game, the seduction, the manipulation. You no longer take the bait. When emotional volatility knocks, when the silent treatment tries to draw you back in, it finds something immovable in its path. Your core, your clarity, your refusal to play. And something shifts again. What once felt magnetic now feels tedious. What once looked mysterious now looks like chaos in disguise. You don't feel the urge to fix, to prove, to explain. You see it all. The tactics, the traps, the desperation, and you respond with the only thing that cannot be manipulated, stillness. Your peace becomes sacred. Your worth becomes law. You no longer chase confusion. You don't negotiate your soul. You never again abandon yourself in hopes of being chosen, and from that ground you become untouchable, not because you're numb, but because the pain no longer owns you. The game no longer hooks you. The illusion no longer seduces you. When it all falls away, the push and pull, the cycles, the endless decoding, what you're left with isn't just clarity. It's truth. A truth that hurts like hell and frees you all at once. It was never about her. She was a mirror, a test, a reflection of everything you still needed to heal. Every boundary you refused to hold, every time you chose silence over self. She wasn't the problem, she was the symptom. You weren't fighting her. You were at war with your own shadow. The part of you that believed love had to be earned, that worth was negotiable, that being alone meant being unlovable. And when that illusion collapses, it doesn't just ache. It destroys you, but it also delivers you. Because now you see every moment you betrayed your gut, every time you abandoned yourself to avoid being abandoned. And in seeing it, you become free. Not just from her, but from the cycle itself. This is the threshold, the place where the boy ends and the man begins. Where fragmentation gives way to integration, where reaction becomes intention. This is the work Jung pointed to, not fixing the world, not decoding others, but claiming yourself, naming your patterns, walking out of the trance. And here's the final truth. The game only exists if you agree to play. The chaos only controls you if you hand over the reins. The validation that only tempts you if you still believe you're not enough without it. The second you stop believing that and the entire structure falls, quietly, no fireworks, just space. And in that space, a new man stands, still, whole, unshakable. As if she doesn't change, the world doesn't change, but you do. And that's when the story ends, not with closure, but with awakening.